Hello learners! In this video, I will be discussing about tips for an effective public speaking. I have learned this from my experience as a Toastmasters International member for more than 4 years now. I have been a member of the Toastmasters International since 2020. I also have attended numerous club meetings in the country and also outside. So I learned these things from my experience in speaking during my speech projects and also based from the learnings, knowledge I have acquired from being a member of the Toastmasters International. I always say during my evaluation that speaking is a performance. So that is the first thing that we have to get into our minds, that speaking is a performance. If we have that kind of mindset, then we are able to be conscious of our appearance and of the whole speech presentation. Because if we only think that the so-called performance is for singing and dancing alone, then we forget that public speaking is also a performance. We would just think that public speaking is just having a conversation with a number of people. So we tend to forget how to polish the appearance from the speech to the delivery. All right. So in this discussion, I will be basing the tips from the judges ballot of the Toastmasters International. This judges ballot has the criteria of judging for the international speech contests in the Toastmasters International. In the judges ballot, it was divided into three main categories. First is the content, second is the delivery, and third is the language. I'd like to emphasize first on the two main categories, which are content and delivery. I always say this in my class that in order to have an effective public speaking, you must ensure that you have an effective delivery and effective content. Because if you don't have the tandem of the two, then you would not have an effective public speaking. If you have, for example, a very good speech to tell or a very good story to tell, but your delivery is not that attractive, then the audience will not find to have an impact from your speech. Vice versa. If you have a very good delivery, but the story that you have told is not organized in a way that it is easy to follow by the audience, then there will also not be a good impact for that. So you must always ensure the two to be in tandem together, to be working together, so that you will have a beautiful speech presentation. All right. So based on the criteria of the judges ballot of the Toastmasters International, under the content, it has three subcategories: speech development, effectiveness, and speech value. When we say content, this talks about the whole story that you are actually telling. So you must invest in the story that you tell. From my experience of evaluating Toastmasters International members, especially for those who are beginners, I always notice, or if not always, often notice that during their icebreaker speech, they tend to elaborate everything. They tend to say everything from their childhood to high school to the present life scenario. And then after that, what? So it's merely elaboration of things that you have experienced. And from that, what do we get? So you should not say everything in one speech. We know that you have so many experiences in your 20 years of existence, in your 30 years of existence, but try not to say everything in one speech. So, from the numerous experiences you have in your 20 years of existence or 30 years of existence, just choose one from that. What do you want to talk about from the experiences that you have? And then bring us to those moments. In fact, just bring us to those limited scenarios where you experience that wisdom. For example, you want to talk about true love. You want to talk about true love. So bring us to those scenarios where you experience true love. Let's say you experience true love at the age of 18 years old. What happened? How can you say that it was true love? So you no longer mention your childhood, you no longer mention your high school life. You just focus on the scenario where you experience true love. And what about true love? What can we learn from that? So it's filtering things in the content. That's the content. In fact, in the judges' ballot, the content has the highest division of score. It is 50 points out of the 100 points. See? So the investment in the content is very significant. You have to really think of a good wisdom, and then you share a story, slice a portion of your personal story, you add to it. What have you experienced that you were able to tell that true love exists? From your 20 years of existence, how can you say that true love exists? All right? So, of course, we do not need to hear how you were born, where you were born, how many siblings do you have. We just want to know how can you say that there is true love. All right. So, the first subcategory of content is speech development. This refers to the structure, organization, and supporting materials. It is very important to have a structure. So I always say in my lectures in class about public speaking that for the structure, make sure you have your introduction, you have your body, and then you have your conclusion. So in your introduction, give us something that is very attractive. Do not simply begin with good morning. I am here to stand to present to you my speech entitled blah blah blah. It's very flat. When we hear that, it's very flat. There's nothing intriguing about your first line. So focus on the first line. For example, you want to talk about true love in the whole content. So maybe you can create a very strong line in your introduction by saying love exists when there is pain and sorrow. Then emphatic pause. So imagine if you say that it's like love has pain and sorrow. How can we say that? So it intrigues the audience. So you will be able to catch the attention of your audience to listen further to your speech. Now, in your introduction, you say more, maybe 2 to 3 sentences further, then you transition to your body. All right? So, in your body, you have your personal touch of your story there. You add now your experience there, and you can limit it to a maximum of 3 points. You have experienced true love at the age of 18, at the age of 21, at the age of 30. And how were these experiences impact your life? So maybe what happened at the age of 18, what happened at the age of 21, what happened at the age of 30. That's for your body. So you bring us to the specific scenarios. You make us feel that true love and that pain and that sorrow. Right. And then from the body, you now transition to your conclusion. So your conclusion, do not just give us a flat conclusion by saying, that's all. That is my speech for today, my task for this class. I usually hear this in some of my students, and I always evaluate them by telling them, don't give that kind of conclusion. Give us a very strong conclusion such that when we leave, we have a takeaway. We will be reminded of the words that you have said in your conclusion. So maybe you end your conclusion by saying, love is not just about butterflies and rainbows, but it is also about heartbreaks and cries. See? So that creativity that you have, you can become poetic, you can become creative writers when you try to draft your content. Okay, that is for the speech development. Then the second subcategory is the effectiveness. So in the effectiveness, we have the clear purpose, the achievement of purpose, and the relevance. So for the effectiveness, in order for your speech to be effective, you must be able to ask yourself after reading the whole speech, have I achieved my objective for this speech? And then go back to your objective. What was your objective? Why do you want to say this speech? Do you want to motivate the audience to believe in true love? Then, if yes, read your speech, and were you able to inspire the audience to believe in true love? If yes, then you have an effective content, still at the content. And then relevance. Is it relevant? Or are all the things that you were saying relevant? This is now where the filtering is happening, the one that I told you a while ago. It's about filtering. If you talk about true love, is it relevant to talk about your poverty? Is it is it relevant to talk about the politics? It's not relevant. Therefore, you omit those things that are not relevant to your point, to your gist of your story. Next, we have the speech value for the third subcategory under content. For the speech value, we have here ideas, logic, original thought. With the advent of AI, wherein you just can type, make me a speech about true love, then blah, 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 you have there. It's a general. If you read the AI generated speeches, you will notice that it's very broad. There's nothing specific about it. It will just keep telling something about true love, definition, the wisdom. What's missing in the AI generated speech is the injection of the uniqueness, the injection of your personal story. That's why I'm not really encouraging everyone to depend on AI for your speech construction. You really try to be original, try to be a creative writer, and listen to your story. So it's about the value, the logic. For example, how beautiful were you able to craft the thought of true love by sharing your story of falling in love with a person that you really hated from the beginning. So it's the logic. Now, your story of how you met your true love at the age of 18 years old will not be told by AI. That's why I'm not really encouraging everyone to depend on AI for crafting of the speech. It's more beautiful if you really be natural, you really be authentic. Let your stories be heard by thousands of people, by hundreds of people, and who knows, you have the most beautiful speech ever. I noticed this in my class when some students would submit AI generated speeches, and then it's as if after reading the whole text, I wouldn't see that particular student because it's always the broad thing, especially at the body. of the speech. There's no personal touch, there's no specific scenario, so I could not feel the existence or the ambience of that particular student. Now, if you tell us a story about you, a specific scenario about you, that's when I would have the impression of what kind of person you are. So that's it for the subcategory speech value under content. Now we move on to the second main category, which is delivery. So for the delivery, we also have three subcategories. We have physical, voice, and manner. First, physical, it's about appearance, body language, and speaking area. All right, now this is about the delivery now. Let's assume that you have a very good content already. You have your unique story to tell us. Now you prepare for your delivery. So for your delivery under the physical, make sure that you make use of the speaking area. Remember that during the 3-minute duration of your speech, the stage is yours. So enjoy it. You walk around it. Own the stage. No one would dare to steal the 3 minutes of your existence, of your presence at that stage. It's yours. Therefore, make use of it. You move around, move to the right, to the left, at the center, move backward, move forward. It depends. But your movement must also be choreographed. Make sure at what paragraph will you move forward, or at what paragraph will you move to the side, so on. So you practice. You do not just become stiff and you just stand at the center. No, you move around, you choreograph your movement. And then body language. Make use of your body language. Make sure that your posture is good, you stand straight, press out with all the confidence. And then you also have your facial expression, your hand gestures. Do not just be stiff by standing there without having any movement. Remember that gestures are very important. And then appearance. So appearance is also significant. You make sure that you're well dressed. You have your beautiful look there, your most beautiful look, because that will add to the strong stage presence as a public speaker. Okay, that is for the physical. Second subcategory is voice. For the voice, we have flexibility and volume. Flexibility in a sense that you will not be monotonous. There must be a difference throughout. You sound high, you sound low, it depends. And you should sound natural, because if it's monotonous, you would sound so scripted. You would sound like a robot, in which you are not a robot. You're human. So be a human that we see. And then for the volume, make sure that your volume is also well modulated, or if you have a choreograph changing of volume, then that's fine, because it depends on how you want to present. There may be some dialogues there that you want, so the volume might change. And then third subcategory is the manner. We have directness, assurance, enthusiasm. So for the manner, this is the attitude that we would feel as audience. The moment you step forward to the stage, we already have the impression of the directness that you have. We can feel the confidence level that you have without even uttering a word first. So when you go there with all the confidence, we know that you have that directness. You have that assurance and enthusiasm. And it's as if you're giving us an assurance that the whole speech will be worth it. So you must have that kind of confidence there, so that we, the audience, can feel that this is an excellent public speaking presence. All right? Those are for the delivery. So for the judges ballot of the Toastmasters International, the delivery is given 30 points. its second highest point after the content. Now we move on to the third main category, which is language. So under language, there are two subcategories. We have appropriateness and correctness. For the appropriateness, it is to speech purpose and audience. So in the language, we now focus in the language that you use, specifically English language. It's about having that purpose. Did you achieve your purpose or did you not? So, for example, you consider this as a formal setting. Therefore, make sure that the purpose is a formal setting. So you be aware of the language use that you have. You don't use hey, you don't use guys, you don't use yeah. Instead, you use yes. So formal, because this is formal event. Also, audience. How did you approach the audience using the language? Did you insult them? Did you become rude? Which it should not be. So you must have no biases. You must have a very respectful command of language throughout your speech. You do not mention anything that might hurt a particular group. And then next, the correctness. For the correctness, this now involves grammar, pronunciation, and word selection. Grammar, go back to the basic, when to use is, when to use are, when to use them, they. So the basic grammar. And then pronunciation, how is this word pronounced? How is this word pronounced? And so on. And of course, word selection. So you try to learn word selection. What is the right word that I could use for this particular scenario? Instead of using this word, I can use this word. So be familiar with synonyms. All right. So under this grammar pronunciation, with my experience in my students in class, there are some students who really struggle with grammar. You can really see that they have some grammatical lapses and then the pronunciation as well. So what I always tell them is maximize listening to English movies, English songs, then try to imitate. How did they compose the sentence? How did they pronounce the words? Because through that, you will be able to imitate the correct grammar usage and the correct pronunciation. Also with word selection, if you watch a lot of videos, movies in English language, you will learn a lot of words. You might say, I can use that word in this particular sentence, or this word means like this and this, so I can use this here. So it's just a matter of really widening your experience in order for you to gain knowledge. You do not just limit yourself to the four corners of the classroom in learning grammar, pronunciation, and word selection. You can actually make use the of our generation right now in which we have so much online platforms that we can learn from. So use them. You watch, you listen, you mimic, you imitate, and from that you can learn. All right. So that's it for my tips for an effective public speaking. Always focus on your content, delivery, and language. Good luck, and I wish you all the best.